shift to public housing. And you mentioned public housing before. There's a shortage of of housing basically in Montgomery County. Prices are skyrocketing, and there aren't enough units for the people that want to move here. How can we address or better on how do you plan to address the crisis on housing in District 6, where a lot of the residents here make less than $90,000 a year, and they live in rent. They rent apartments. They can't afford a house. They can't afford affordable housing. They can't afford anything other than living in a 2-bedroom apartment. What are your initiatives to address the public housing issue that we have?
Yeah, so I lived that firsthand. I had to share housing. And so we need to be strategic about the areas in the county where, there is the space for, high density housing. And one of the things that I've noticed throughout the pandemic, we have industrial parks and commercial buildings that are empty because folks are working from home. And so one of the things that I want to propose is to survey the county and see, okay, there's already this industrial park, there's already this building. Let's, make improvements, et cetera. Let's purchase it. Let's make improvements, and let's, or open up to bidders, et cetera. But let's develop it and make it into residential housing. I mean, that's just one creative idea. But beyond that, I was talking about these job centers. So, areas in District 6, the areas of, well, obviously, Veers Mill, Connecticut, Glenmont, Wheaton, downtown Wheaton, going towards University Boulevard, there we have high density. In some of those areas, we have high density. We have some apartment buildings in right where I live, but that you still have areas where you could definitely build up. And I think we need to reconcile the narrative, because we have also folks that have been that came here 30, 40 years ago looking for a suburban area, and that aren't very enthusiastic about development. They're not enthusiastic about the sprawl. So, but as I mentioned earlier, we know that folks want to live here. We know that people are coming, and the folks that are here now are increasingly not able to afford their home. So we're facing a crisis now, and it's imperative that we're strategic about the spaces that we do have, and then in the areas that we can afford to develop, let's make sure that we're developing in a smart way that doesn't obviously it doesn't bring down the quality of the housing, because just because because an individual can't afford something doesn't mean that they don't deserve quality. So it's also about the quality, right? And then also the affordability. So I think there is an opportunity to do that. I definitely am not a proponent of big development that doesn't take into consideration how that development would change the demographics of the neighborhood. I was born and raised in Arlington County. Most of the families of the street that I grew up on are no longer there. I mean, so gentrification is real, and folks were pushed, south of 90 on 95. We don't want that in Montgomery County. And I think we have the appetite, and as you mentioned, and I'm very impressed that the Chamber of Commerce is asking this question, because it shows the appetite. A lot of folks have that idea. Well, if you're only profit oriented, then why should we care about who's living in our apartment buildings? So I'm very impressed that you asked that question, and it's a high priority of mine. So like I said, between surveying the spaces that are naturally becoming vacant, and landlords aren't able to actually fill, I'm talking about commercial buildings, and then also surveying areas that that where there is the space and the radius to safely develop, and to continue to create mixed use development. So residential up top, commercial on the bottom. And I think we absolutely have there's the appetite in District 6, and I'm excited to be a part of that process.